When a production dares to revisit a cinematic masterpiece like Dog Day Afternoon, the stakes are already sky high. But when it also casts a modern screen heavyweight like Jon Bernthal in a role immortalized by Al Pacino, expectations shift from high to nearly impossible. Broadway has always been a place where bold risks are taken, but this adaptation isn't just a revival, it's a confrontation with legacy. And yet, against all odds, this Dog Day Afternoon stage adaptation doesn't merely survive under the weight of its own ambition, it thrives, reinvents, and ignites. A role that defined a generation. To understand the magnitude of what Bernthal is attempting, we need to revisit the cultural earthquake that was Dog Day Afternoon. Directed by Sidney Lumet and released in 1975, the film told the true story of a botched Brooklyn bank robbery that spiraled into a tense hostage situation under the blistering summer sun. At the heart of it all was Sonny Wurtzek, a desperate, volatile, and strangely sympathetic man brought to life by Pacino in one of the most electrifying performances of his career. Pacino's Sonny wasn't just a criminal, he was a contradiction, equal parts charming and erratic, heroic and self-destructive. The role earned Pacino an Academy Award nomination and etched itself into film history. His now legendary cry, "Attica, Attica," became a cultural touchstone, echoing far beyond the film itself. So when it was announced that Bernthal would step into these shoes on Broadway, skepticism was inevitable. Jon Bernthal, the unlikely successor. Known for his intense, grounded performances in projects like The Punisher and The Walking Dead, Bernthal has built a reputation for portraying tough, emotionally complex characters. But Sonny Wurtzek isn't just tough, he's theatrical, unpredictable, and constantly teetering on the edge of collapse. At first glance, Bernthal might not seem like the obvious choice. Pacino's version was electric in a very specific way, nervy, wiry, almost combustible. Bernthal, by contrast, carries a heavier, more grounded energy. But that difference is precisely what makes this adaptation work. Rather than imitate Pacino, a trap that would doom any actor, Bernthal makes a bold decision, he reinvents Sonny entirely. A performance rooted in reality. From the moment Bernthal steps onto the stage, it's clear that this Sonny is cut from a different cloth. There's less of the frenetic chaos that defined Pacino's portrayal and more of a simmering intensity, a man weighed down by circumstances rather than propelled by manic energy. Bernthal's Sonny feels deeply human. His desperation isn't theatrical, it's suffocating. You can feel the pressure closing in on him, the walls tightening with every passing minute. Where Pacino's Sonny was explosive, Bernthal's is implosive. This choice transforms the character in fascinating ways. The famous outbursts are still there, but they land differently, less like performance, more like emotional rupture. When Bernthal finally unleashes Sonny's rage, it feels earned, even inevitable. And that's where the magic happens. The power of the stage. One of the most striking aspects of this adaptation is how it uses the intimacy of live theater to deepen the story. Unlike the film, which relied heavily on location shooting and cinematic tension, the Broadway version leans into psychological claustrophobia. The set design, a stark, confined bank interior, becomes a pressure cooker. The audience isn't just watching the hostage situation unfold, they're trapped inside it. Every glance, every tremor in Bernthal's voice, every moment of silence carries weight. And Bernthal thrives in this environment. Without the safety net of multiple takes or camera angles, his performance feels raw, immediate, and dangerously alive. There are moments where it genuinely feels like anything could happen, and that unpredictability is exactly what Dog Day Afternoon demands. Supporting cast. A crucial balance. Of course, Sonny doesn't exist in a vacuum. The success of this production hinges on the ensemble, and thankfully, the supporting cast rises to the challenge. The actor portraying Sal, Sonny's quiet, unnerving accomplice, provides a perfect counterbalance to Bernthal's intensity. Where Sonny is emotional and volatile, Sal is eerily calm, his stillness amplifying the tension. Meanwhile, the hostages are given more depth in this adaptation, each one emerging as a fully realized character rather than background figures. Their fear, frustration, and occasional empathy create a complex emotional landscape that keeps the audience constantly shifting their allegiances. And then there's the role of Leon, Sonny's partner, whose story adds a deeply personal dimension to the narrative. This relationship, groundbreaking in its original context, feels even more poignant on stage, handled with sensitivity and nuance. Direction. Reinvention without betrayal. The director of this Broadway adaptation walks a delicate tightrope, honoring the original film while carving out a distinct identity. Fortunately, the production succeeds on both fronts. Key moments from the film are preserved, not as nostalgic callbacks, but as integral parts of the story. The famous Attica scene, for instance, is reimagined in a way that feels fresh and urgent rather than derivative. At the same time, the staging introduces new elements that take full advantage of the theatrical medium. Lighting, sound design, and pacing are used to heighten tension in ways that cinema simply can't replicate. The result is a production that feels both familiar and entirely new. The weight of comparison. It's impossible to watch this Dog Day Afternoon without thinking about Pacino. His shadow looms large over every scene, every line, every pause. But instead of being crushed by that shadow, Bernthal uses it as a foundation. This isn't a performance that tries to compete with Pacino, it's one that exists alongside it. And that's perhaps the greatest achievement of all. Themes that still resonate. Part of what makes Dog Day Afternoon so enduring is its relevance. At its core, the story isn't just about a bank robbery, it's about desperation, identity, media sensationalism, and the fragile line between hero and villain. Those themes feel just as urgent today as they did in 1975. In fact, in an age of viral moments and 24/7 news cycles, the story arguably hits even harder. The way the crowd outside the bank turns Sonny into a kind of antihero feels eerily familiar, echoing modern dynamics of fame and public perception. Bernthal taps into this beautifully, portraying a man who becomes a symbol almost by accident, and who ultimately can't control the narrative that consumes him. A career-defining turn. For Bernthal, this role represents a significant moment in his career. While he's long been respected for his work on screen, this performance proves that he has the range, presence, and fearlessness to command a Broadway stage. It's not just a good performance, it's a transformative one. And it raises an exciting question: where does he go from here? Final verdict: taking on a role made famous by Al Pacino is a daunting task. Doing it on Broadway, in front of a live audience, adds another layer of pressure. But Jon Bernthal doesn't just meet that challenge, he redefines it. This Dog Day Afternoon isn't a carbon copy of the film. It's a bold, gripping, emotionally charged reinterpretation that stands on its own. It honors the original without being beholden to it. And, most importantly, it reminds us why this story continues to captivate audiences nearly 5 decades later. Rating: 4.55. A tense, riveting Broadway adaptation anchored by a fearless performance from Jon Bernthal. Not a replacement for the original, but a powerful companion piece that earns its place on the stage.